but I could be incorrect, so please let me know, is the discussion of the indigenous worldview holding, and you might have to unpack this for the listeners, a non-anthropocentrism. The humans aren't really, they're not on top, and a sort of recognition of non-human entities as being sort of like entities of their own right. They're not subservient to us. They're like the trees, the rivers, the et cetera. These are beings, or maybe persons in some sense. And I'm wondering about what your thoughts are, and if it has, whether or not it's even the case, that sort of, many, many generations of living in dynamics where the natural world is seen in that way influences a person's sense of self and how they believe in the world. Because as it stands, we are essentially who we are as a consequence of who we are in relationship with from the very beginning and throughout our lives. And presently in the dominant worldview, the only beings that we are in relationship with are other humans, and they're generally other traumatized humans, either on that sort of large societal level or very specifically down to specific events that would traumatize. And I'm wondering how much of a role the recognition of nature and the sort of the personhood of non-human entities influences that sort of the things that you describe as precepts in the indigenous worldview.
Well, my hypothesis is that it's key, it's foundational. If you grow up believing that dirt is bad, that trees can just be cut down without thought, that a cockroach is something to step on, that sets a mindset that allows you to look at fellow human beings who are different, who are smaller or a different color or have some disability. I believe that this concept of diversity and its importance, the concept of inclusion, all of the things that we are trying to do in schools with regards to respect for others, the hiring of chief diversity officers in colleges, all of these things, I feel that they are falling flat because they continue the human-centered or anthropocentric perspective. Until we can truly recognize that this interconnectedness with sentience and egalitarianism and what that means in the cycles of life, I don't think that we really have a chance.
Just think of how many hours children are forced to stay inside a building. So what? How many? 12 years of schooling, of thousands and thousands of hours spent away from the natural world. A lot of people are concerned about that now. Forced kindergartens are trying to remedy that so that the students, the young children, are spending their days outside exploring and just being in touch with dirt and mud, which is very antibiotic and very healing in various ways. So what we've done over the last millennia is we've gotten used to being inside our own walls. And then you start to think, oh, we're separate from nature. That's not us. It's dirty and all that. And, we're superior. We don't have to go do what they do, those dirty animals. We're more controlled. And then you get that's the most dangerous thing, superiority. And various sand talk. The author, Yunka Porta, is it? He's a native from Australia. He talks about that as being the key problem, is when you start to think that you're superior to anything, then you're going to do damage, right? You are now on that's the dominant way of thinking, right? To always think, where am I in the hierarchy? So I think our need for allowing children to explore the natural world, but not just a grassy lawn. It has to be a forest and an ocean side, a river side, the complexities of the natural world, and giving them the freedom to do that. Jean Liedloff pointed this out long ago in her book, The Continuum Concept, which she contrasted the upbringing of the Yaquanas in the Amazon with her experience in North America, and couldn't believe it, how happy they are and how developed they are. And so in the Indigenous worldview, all the stuff we're talking about, and that is giving the child the freedom to be. And that's something where we have to work with adults who are so now anxious and afraid to let children have that freedom.
I thought it was interesting. I wrote a book called Amerindian Rebirthing. It was done from some scholars out of the University of British Columbia. And they talked about reincarnation stories that they solicited from a number of tribes around British Columbia. And, it's just interesting to bring up that, we all who think of the concept of reincarnation coming from the East. And I have a dear friend who's a Buddhist and who speaks the language and spent time with the Dalai Lama, who says, well, there's still a hierarchy in terms of, although there's respect, there's still the hierarchy that humans are above. You don't get reincarnated as an animal usually as a good thing. Whereas the scholars, about 40% of reincarnations were cedar trees and salmon and bear and insects and things like that. I think it creates a philosophy of life's interconnectedness that once you recognize it, and there are scholarly books that come up like The Secret Life of Trees that when anybody reads them, they go, oh my gosh, they communicate with their relatives and warn them of insects. But indigenous cultures knew this from observation and respected and learned from it. It wasn't even just another equal sentient being. It was a teacher, whatever that part of nature was.
Yeah, I talk about receptive intelligence. We forgot that, this ability to hear and perceive the communications of the entities around us. When Four Arrows and I have done exercises with our students to try to stimulate this kind of intelligence.